Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to my Wild Rift tier list for patch 4.1a. We had a few changes in this patch, some to items, some to champions, which means that my tier list has changed ever so slightly. And I think a lot of you will be very surprised when it gets to my mid lane and also my duo lane tier list, with some of the changes to Sterix Gauge now being used on ranged champions, with some of these tankier builds being played now for these AD carry champions. I think a lot of you want to stay tuned, or maybe skip to the timestamps in the description so you can go to any role that you want to check a look out. But like I said, you definitely want to check out my mid lane and my duo lane build to see what changes has happened over there. For those who don't know, this is Wild Rift Fire. This is one of my websites that I've been running with the guys over at Mobile Fire. You can get every single build for every single champion in the game. This website is now updated as well to patch 4.1a. So if you do want to get any builds, or if you want to get any ideas for any builds for any champions that you want to try, link is down in the description for you to give it a try. I got ability rundowns, build breakdowns, runes, everything like that as well. But let's head into the tier list. First up is the Baron lane. Nothing has really changed that much in the Baron lane at all. We have had a few changes to some of the champions in terms of items. One of them being Urgot. Urgot got a little bit of a I would say buff in the most recent patch, because Sterix Gauge now working on ranged champions. I think Urgot is probably the best champion that you can build now with Sterix Gauge as a ranged champion, because he works so well. He has so much high base AD, and also works really nice with maximum health, because he's not really more of a range carry. He's kind of a ranged champion that likes to get in and amongst it and likes to get into close range. So him being allowed to get maximum health, get that lifeline passive, and also get increased AD with your increased base AD from the heavy-handed passive or Sterix Gauge, I think is very nice. This on top of Black Cleaver, Twin Guard, Death Stance as well, I think it is a great change for Urgot. Not too sure if he's worthy of S plus tier. I don't think he is worthy of S plus tier in my opinion. I think he's like on the brink of S and S plus tier. I definitely have to try him out some more to see if he's worth moving up maybe into the S plus tier. But to be honest, most of the S plus tier champions are still staying the exact same. You know, champions like Wukong, which is still really strong because he has a lot of sustain and he has a lot of mobility and just a lot of ways that he can be stay alive during the laning phase, and a lot of ways during a team fight to be able to be very strong. Champions like Jax and Fiora are still very strong because they can split push very well with Hullbreaker plus Twin Guard, and they also just scale up to pretty much infinite. Gwen with her true damage is very strong. She's probably one of the best champions when it gets to 3 items in the game. Garen being super easy to play again with Twin Guard and Hullbreak and all these items, and Camille with her outplay potential. So I'm not too sure if he does really sneak into the S plus tier with all these amazing champions up there. Let me know what you think of Urgot, because I'm sure some of you have definitely tried out Urgot with Sterix Gauge. Some of the other S tier champions that have definitely honorable mentions, you got champions like Jhin, which work really well with some of the new items, with like Divine Sunderer. Sunfire Aegis means that he can split bush a lot quicker. Gragas is really good if you want to play him as more of a tank rather than full AP build. You can use that in the Baron lane. Malphite's pretty good with new tank items as well. Sion and Mundo are also very good with the new tank items, especially with Mantle of the 12th Hour being changed. I think it's actually more of a buff to Sion and Dr. Mundo, because Mantle of the 12th Hour didn't give any HP before, but now that the item gives 200 HP, it means that the Mantle of the 12th Hour passive is going to be buffed, and already Sion does really well with bonus HP, and so does Dr. Mundo. So I think both these champions, again, have a slight little buff this patch. Again, I don't think it's S plus tier worthy, but it's, again, nice little buffs that happen to this patch because of some of the item changes that came into play. Other than that, like I said, not really much else has changed as we changed with the S tier. As we move down into the A tier, however, I have moved back up Graves. Now, the reason why I moved Graves back up is, again, because of Sterix Gauge. I think Sterix Gauge is a great item for Graves. Again, another champion that has very high base AD, and giving him more tankiness, I think, is great. He already has a lot of sustain with Bloodthirster already. He already has a lot of damage with like Lord Dominic's Regards and also Black Cleaver. Sterix Gauge gives him the defense stats that he really needs, because He does a lot of damage already. All he needs is something to give him a little bit more tankiness so he can survive longer in team fights. And Sterak's Gauge is great for that. This will also help him a lot in the laning phase. You can maybe go into a Hull Breaker sort of build if you want to give that a try with Graze. But I was thinking to myself, I don't think he's worthy to be down in the B tier with champions like Teemo, Tryndamere, and Nasus, and obviously Kayle. So I feel like moving him back up into A tier was probably the best way. But there's some other champions up here as well that still work really well. You know, Yone, if you want a hyper carry up in the Baron lane, is still very, very strong. Pantheon still works okay. Olaf as well. Like I said, not really too much has changed, to be honest with you, with Baron lane, because there wasn't really that many changes with that many champions. It's just really the addition of Sterak's Gauge helping the likes of Urgot and Graves just becoming stronger. Moving into the jungle now, I think this is where the big changes have come in for me with this patch. First up, I want to talk about Lilia. I have moved Lilia down into S tier. The reason why I moved Lilia down into S tier is I feel like she's kind of fallen off a little bit. She does okay in the current meta because she does a lot of maximum health damage. But that maximum health damage is normally like damage over time. And by the time that Lilia looks to try and run around or looks to try and do something, she's just going to die. She's not really that tanky. She doesn't really do that high, heavy burst damage. Like, if you think of junglers above, you think of champions like Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, Diana, Gragas. These are champions that can one-shot carries. If Lilia comes up against any one of the S+ tier champions, by the time Lilia looks to try and run around and tries to get all the movement speed, Diana's going to jump on you and one-shot you. Gragas is going to jump on you and one-shot you. Olaf's just going to use his ulti and just one-shot you again. So that's why I moved Lilia down to S tier, because I don't think she is worthy of being up in the S+ tier anymore. Again, let me know your opinions. Let me know what you think of Lilia. I just don't think that she's as strong as what she was before, just because of some of the item changes and tank changes in the meta. Nautilus, even though Nautilus did get a nerf this patch to jungle monster camps, I have moved him up into the S tier, and I've also changed his build on the website as well to reflect the full AP Nautilus build. I think this is the best build to go if you want to try and be a carry in solo queue. You go full AP Nautilus with Luden's Echo, Death Cap, Void Staff, Infinity Orb, Horizon Focus. You just go full AP. You instantly clear the jungle, even after the nerfs, because the nerfs weren't really too much. It's like 25% damage increase, but you still one-shot jungle camps, and you can also one-shot pretty much anyone on the map at the same time. You ultimate an AD carry or a high-value target, which normally has a long range. You half health them. This got played a lot in pro play as well, and it's very, very popular right now. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen this weekend when the WRL starts in the Chinese league, to see if they're going to be actually picking up Nautilus. Maybe not full AP, but I've seen a few like hybrid builds being played, like Rod of Ages into full tank, or a little bit of AP plus a little bit of tankiness. So really excited to see what they do in Nautilus. But yeah, I definitely feel like Nautilus does deserve to be up in the S tier because of the changes that they've obviously done to him before. Obviously got nerfed this patch, but it doesn't really matter. Again, another champion that I've moved up is Urgot. Urgot has actually insane jungle clear speed. You'll be very, very surprised when you play Urgot jungle that his jungle clear speed is very, very fast. I think, honestly, I would say maybe one of the fastest now. I don't know if he's like up there as one of the fastest, but like his first jungle clear speed, when you go for your second ability first, you can instantly just kill like a red buff or a blue buff, or even just kill Krug straight away, especially with Smite, because of your passive being able to just, all you have to do is just move around the red buff and just make sure you use all your legs to deal the extra bonus damage. Use Smite as well, you just instantly kill a buff straight away, and it's so strong, and it's so quick that you can clear through the jungle. And he's also pretty good when you get a few once you get a few items, you know, Black Cleaver, Sterak's Gauge, Death Stance. Once you get them 3 items, then he could be very, very strong when it comes to team fights as well, which is what you need for a jungler. Nunu got a really nice buff this patch. I think Nunu was already in a pretty stable spot before, even though he didn't really benefit a lot from the tank items. But I think that he's in an even more stronger spot now because of the buffs that happened to him with his first ability getting buff, and also he gets a little bit more health per level. Nunu's great because he loves to gank a lot, and I think in solo queue it's so important to make sure you can gank as much as possible, which Nunu is great for that, using Snowball, having a bit of tankiness, and using your ulti as kind of a zone control as well. You have a lot of tank items which work really well with him, like Sunfire Aegis, Warmogs, and also Twin Guard. So I think items like that, with Nunu getting the recent buff, definitely deserves him to stay in the S tier for now and not move down any lower than the S tier. Rammus, I think Rammus is the Rammus is an interesting one. See, I was thinking to myself, I was like, does Rammus deserve to move into S tier? I don't really think so, but I think he's very, very close. I think he's extremely close to moving up into S tier. Obviously, he received some changes in the most recent patch, but a big thing was that Rammus got the movement speed reduction on his second ability removed. I think that is probably the biggest change for Rammus, because before he struggled when using his second ability to walk up and try and taunt enemies or try and walk up and just auto attack in general. Now you can just use your second ability whenever you want and it doesn't really matter. And on top of that, you obviously got the new tank items, which were really, really strong on him. You now get more base damage with your second ability. It doesn't scale that much with armor, but the base damage is nice for him to clear through the jungle and help him in the early game. I think he's in a pretty decent spot at the moment. Like I said, I don't think he has the best playmaking potential. He's not really the best jungler overall. Like I say, he's close to moving up into S tier, but I'm looking at some of these S tier champions at the moment and I'm thinking, does Rammus deserve to be on the same tier as someone like, you know, Irelia, Vi, Xin, Morgana as well? You know, some of these amazing champions, Kayn as well. I think Kayn, Yone. There's some amazing champions in S tier, so I think it's very difficult to move Rammus up. But if I still had my A+ tier, he'll definitely live up there. But for now, he lives down in the A tier. Amumu got a little bit of a nerf to his second ability. It was more of a nerf to his full AP build because of how strong he was at soloing Baron. So that got nerfed. I do prefer going for tank Amumu at the moment rather than AP Amumu. I do think that both builds are kind of viable. Just kind of depends on what sort of playstyle you want. Do you want to go for a heavy one-shot potential? Can you dodge abilities well with Amumu? Because if you get caught with abilities in a full, in a full AP build, you're kind of just going to get one shot straight away. So I prefer Tank Amumu. I still think Tank Amumu does a lot of damage, and I just think he's going to be a lot more impactful in team fights if you go for Tank Amumu. And the last one is Warwick. Obviously, Warwick received a little bit of a buff. I was thinking of moving Warwick into or making a Warwick Baron lane thing. The thing is with Warwick, I don't know where he would sit. He would probably sit in like B tier, to be honest with you. I don't think Warwick Baron lane is that good at all. I think they're trying to make Warwick Baron lane a thing, but I just don't think he's that good. So I don't think that the changes that they did to Warwick warrants enough, and I don't think he's really good in the jungle either. That's why he's sitting down in B tier. A couple of champions in C tier as well, obviously Tryndamere and Master Yi. But yeah, again, other than that, not really many changes. Jungle's probably the most changed, I would say, in my tier list this patch, with some of the champions moving up or down into S tier, but everything else kind of stays the same. Everything else is still very, very strong in the jungle. Now the mid lane is where the spicy stuff comes in. I have moved both Lucian and Corki up into the S+ tier. Now, the reason being is obviously Corki. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the new Corki build going around. Manamune, Divine Sunderer, Trinity Force, Riftmaker. You can even go into Twin God, Void Staff, even new Sterak's Gauge as well, which also works really well for Lucian. But I think these two ranged carries in the mid lane are really, really strong right now because they do very well against some of the weaker early game champions like Yone, like Kassadin, like Akali. You know, some of these champions that are weaker in the early game. Champions like Lucian and Corki can abuse the fact that they're very weak in the early game and look to take advantage. And because you're going for a more solo 1v1 build, you're going to be a lot more impactful as well. You know, Lucian can go for Manamune, Black Cleaver, Sterak's Gauge, Serrated Grudge, Bladed Rune King. You're not going to do as much damage as like a crit Lucian build, but you're still going to be very, very impactful. You're going to be even more tankier as well. The same with Corki. You don't do as much damage as the crit build, but because you're in a solo lane or because you're in a 1v1 scenario, you want, you know, items, and you want to be in a situation where you feel a lot stronger and you feel a little bit more tankier in a 1v1 scenario, which again, you go build Manamune into Trinity Force or Divine Sunderer into Riftmaker and just be insanely strong with the new Sterak's Gauge. And obviously Sterak's Gauge works really, really well with two new with ranged champions like Corki and Lucian. I think they're probably the best champions for it, but that's why I've moved them both up. Obviously Pyke received a bunch of changes this patch as well. In terms of the jungle, I haven't moved him. I've kept him at A tier. Same with mid lane as well. I never thought that he was really ever like S+ tier. I don't know if he ever will be like S+ tier level. I think he has a lot of good solo carry potential in the mid lane, but I think it's just very, very difficult because again, you can be punished quite a lot by some of the carries. Maybe he deserves to be S tier and maybe jungle and mid lane. I'm not too sure. maybe I'm kind of lowballing Pyke a little bit. Let me know what you think about Pyke, but maybe I'm lowballing him a little bit. But he did receive some nerfs in the most recent patch, or I should say some changes. So his monster and minion damage is not as high as before, but now he gets more gold, and he gives more gold with his ultimate. So they're just trying to make it more so you trying to lean more towards support Pyke rather than playing mid lane or jungle Pyke. But I think support Pyke still works really, really well, but also mid lane and jungle Pyke is still really, really good. I don't think there's any problems with that at all. Another one I was thinking about as well is obviously moving Lux down into B tier. I had Lux in A tier before, but I was going through all the champions and I was like, am I really putting Lux in the same tier as like Pyke, Akshan, Echo, you know, some of these champions? So I was like, okay, I need to move Lux down into B tier, because I think Lux is probably on the same level as mid lane in terms of like Seraphine, Brand, Annie, and Morgana, rather than putting her at the same level as like Kennen, Echo, you know, some of these other champions, because I don't think Lux has a lot of playmaking potential in the mid lane. Now the dual lane, even though most of the champions have not changed, a lot of the builds have changed, and that's because of the addition of Sterak's Gauge and some of the, you know, the items and just some of the you know, builds in general changing. I do still think that playing Lucian as a crit champion in the dual lane is probably better, and I still think he's very, very good. That's why he's in the S+ tier. Tristana is still a very late game carry that you can do really, really well with. Same with Caitlyn as well. You can just abuse her long range in the early game. Kai'Sa still scales infinitely well, really, really well into late game. And Vayne's an interesting one. I was actually thinking of putting Vayne in a Baron lane, because at the moment on the website I can't make two builds on the same role. But obviously Vayne has had a very, very popular build recently. We've got Bladering King, Trinity Force, Sterak's Gauge, Warmogs, Twin Guard. So you're kind of more of a tankier build. Obviously Vayne doesn't really need that much damage, because she already gets a lot of damage from her second ability, because it deals true damage. So all you need is a little bit of attack speed, which you will get from Bladering King and Trinity Force, and then you can build kind of tanky afterwards, like Sterak's Gauge, like Warmogs, and like Twin Guard. So I think that's definitely a new popular build that's been going around. I think whatever build you go with Vayne, I think she's very, very strong at the moment, and I think she definitely deserves to be in the S+ tier. And another champion that I think a lot of you will be very, very surprised about, but honestly, trust me on this one. Just trust me. I've moved Jhin up into the S tier, and you can see that I now run Electrocute on Jhin. I have a gameplay of Jhin as well, which will be coming out very, very soon. Jhin with Electrocute, by the way, is absolutely insane. I kind of brought kind of a little bit of hope back. It kind of brought a little bit of hope back into me. It's like, wow, I can finally play Jhin again, and it finally feels pretty strong, because Electrocute Jhin is actually pretty good. If you can land your abilities, if you can land your combos, and if you deal that little bit of extra burst damage, it's actually really, really nice. You can go for Ghost Blade as the first item again, because it got buffed in a few patches ago. You still go for Infinity Edge, Lord Dominic's Regards. You still go for a crit build afterwards, but getting that early power spike with Ghost Blade, getting you Electrocute as well, and giving you that little bit of extra burst damage is so, so nice for Jhin. He still does struggle though. He still struggles when it comes to mid and late game, because he's not very good at killing tanks. But if you go for Giant Slayer, it'll help you out with that. But yes, Jhin S tier. I've moved him back up, and I think he definitely deserves to be in the S tier, because I think that, yeah, it's just really exciting to, you know, to play Jhin again, especially with Electrocute, with some of the new builds. But some of the other champions I have to call out for, Samira can definitely move up into S+ tier, because you can now run like Black Cleaver, Sterak's Gauge on Samira, which means that she could be very, very strong. Obviously AP Varus can definitely move up into S+ tier, even though AP Varus did get nerfed this patch. AP Varus is still very, very good in the current meta. Obviously this is AD Varus, because I have Summon Airy. Again, I can't make multiple builds on the same role, so it's kind of difficult. But yeah, you got like Samira. Varus can move up into S+ tier. Ezreal, excuse me. Ezreal as well could definitely move up into S+ tier. There's a few champions that can move up. In terms of the ones below, there's not really anything else that's changing here. You know, Ashe is still down here with Misfortune, because they're just not as good of a carries as the ones above. And then you have champions like Akshan, Seraphine, Senna, champions like that don't really deserve to be any higher. But yeah, the big thing is that Vayne staying in the S+ tier and Jhin moving up into the S tier. Like I said, trust me, you have to give it a try. Lastly, let's take a look at supports. I think Karma and Nami are still the best supports in the game right now. They're both just insane carries. They both have healing, shielding, pretty much everything you want. Great playmaking potential and a lot of damage. The one thing that I did change with the support tier list is Seraphine. Now, Seraphine got a bug fix. Not in this patch, but in the patch before, and has been very, very popular since. I didn't move her up before because it was a little bit too early to kind of judge on where she stands. But now that a lot of people have been trying out and testing Seraphine again, that double shield now that you get on your powered second ability is so, so strong. You even max this second now on Seraphine just because how strong it is. Use Protecting Charm, use your second ability empowered, and you get the double shield, and it is really, really powerful. You give your whole team movement speed, your whole team shielding, and it's just very, very strong. Everything else has kind of stayed the same again with supports. You know, Pyke is still very, very strong as a support and kind of got buffed as a support. Rakan's got good playmaking potential. Lulu's really good as a carry. You know, you got Ashe there, Leona, Janna. Yumi's still very, very strong. Senna's still very strong as a carry in the bot lane. Then one's just below that and kind of like your kind of supports that are not too great and maybe don't have a lot of carry potential. Obviously, Soraka got quite a big nerf a few patches ago. Brom's not really more of a carry, more of a, I would say, pro player pick in a way. Sonya's pretty good if you scales. Lux is okay, and then underneath that you kind of have the unique picks. But yeah, that's pretty much everything with the tier list this time. Like I said, when we have the smaller patches like this, I only run through the changes that I do with the tier list. But again, if you have anything that you think that maybe should move a tier, or maybe anything that you feel like is worthy of moving up or down a tier, or worthy of maybe me rethinking about, or maybe there's a build that you might think that might be really, really strong on a champion, please let me know down in the comments, because I always read all the comments. And I always try and reply to every single one of them. So make sure you comment down below what you think of the tier list. Let me know if it sucks. Let me know if it's really, really good. But yeah, as I mentioned, Wild Rift Fire, if you want to check it out, every single build of every single champion in the game. I even got a sneak peek of a little Twitch build here when Twitch gets released. I think this is probably going to be the best build for Twitch right now. But we'll have to wait and see when he comes out. But I think Twitch is going to be a very, very cool champion when he comes out. And we'll have to see if it's maybe going to be an AD or an AP build for Twitch. I'm not too sure, because I think that, you know, because items like Storm Razor are very, very strong. Infinity Edge, Runner's Hurricane is going to be very strong on him. I'm still very, very excited for him coming out. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next Wilder video. Peace.